Here at D-Lab, and boy do I have a little jewel to show you guys. A little Johnson Adventurer that's been in storage for over 25 years. Thing is in primo condition. I have the little modulator cable with it and the original manual. Let's open it up and give this thing an initial evaluation. So take a look at that baby, huh? She is gorgeous. Now the last thing that you ever want to do with a piece of vintage equipment like this is to plug it in. Especially when you hear this. Hear that? There's something loose in there. My guess is the output tube jumped out of its socket when this thing was shipped way back when. So it's time to open it up very carefully. See what the deal is with that, check the filter caps, etc. Then I'll bring her up slow on a variac. So Johnson never spared any expense when it came to mounting hardware or RFI protection. These things were built to last the ages. This guy here, I'm sure, was like in the early 50s. And look at it. She'll be around for another 50 years easily. Here's the back side. You can see there's a little bit of paint loss here, but absolutely no additional holes being drilled. I do believe though that the RF output jack is incorrect. It says a B and C type. Normally I think they were an RCA. So somebody has been in it at one time. What would you expect, right? Alright, all the screws are out. You are seeing this at the same time I'm seeing it. No surprises. Let's hope. I've got a cut here so I can lift this thing up. Here she comes. Alright, so it looks like the old 5U4 is the one that popped out. Look at there. E.F. Johnson. Super cool. Alright. Let's take a look bottom side. Let's see what we got going down there. Oh yeah. It's got those old original filter caps. There's no way that I'd fire this thing up with those caps in there. Okay. Some of this doesn't look too original. I'll have to take a look at the manual. I don't recall these resistors all being crammed in there. Here's the RF output jack. It does look like that has been replaced. And of course this was a kit. So we'll give her a little sweep here. You can see the catalog number. And the serial number looks like 75853. Chassis is spotless. She really looks good. What a great find. So for comparison, these resistors here, these three I was wondering about, they are here. There they are on the little picture that Johnson had back in the day. But what's not here are those resistors that are hanging in the breeze off of the rear octoplug. That may have had something to do with somebody running a modulator with it. I'm not sure. It's got a fuse holder in it. That's a good thing. This did not have the fused Johnson plug, just a straight 2 conductor. Before I get too excited, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up very slowly on my variac just to make sure it lights and I see some kind of high voltage showing up on the Beckman. So here we go. Bringing it up, watching my current. Looks good. You can see there's a high voltage coming up. That's all I needed to see. So it is worthwhile. Put in new caps and get this guy back on the road. So you can see these filter caps are 8 microfarads at 700 volts. Trying to find 700 volt caps is next to impossible. So I'm going to series in some 450 volt caps. I'm going to use these terminal boards on the chassis to get them all lined up and make it a secure installation. New filter caps are installed with some little equalizing resistoroids across them because I had to series these caps. I used 22 microfarad at 450 volts. And then I kind of cleaned up this area. You remember the resistors were kind of all bent up and messed up looking. There's also some pretty lousy solder connections under here. So I redid that. Also removed those two resistors you saw hanging in the breeze over here. It appears as though somebody was trying to do maybe a power reduction. Maybe trying to run this thing at a QRP level. Anyway, that's out. And I have the normal jumper from pins 4 to 5 installed, restoring full plate voltage to the output tube. Next thing we need to do is fire it up. So by the way, I did get rid of that BNC jack from the rear. I installed an SO239 to standardize antenna connections. So here we are, our initial test on 40 meters. We'll go to grid. See the old boing 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 meter, right? But anyway, we have grid current. Go to plate. Say we have a dirty switch. Here's my plate current. See if I can be real good and hit this key and dip it. The problem is with these meters, you gotta wait for them to settle down. Here's my dip. Kind of, sort of. So let's take a look at our power out. I'm into a dummy load using a little Drake watt meter. See, I'm getting a little over 30 watts out of her. So this is what drives you nuts with these things when you're sitting there sending. This is what you get for a meter indication. Doesn't really mean much, but it's original and it is cool looking, especially with that little Johnson emblem in there. Huh? So the Adventurer is working. So let's hook up a receiver and listen to the tone, and then possibly I may have a modulator so we can try to run some AM through this thing. So let's check out the old CW tone. I've got my DX150B receiver still running into the dummy load. So I do not have an antenna on the receiver because of its close proximity to the transmitter. I'm just interested right now in hearing the tone. So here we go. Sounds pretty good. I'm running my Jones key with just the left paddle since I don't have a little keyer box on it. But you get the idea. I don't really hear any chirp or key clicks in the signal. She sounds really nice and clean. That's probably due to the new filter caps. So now I'm going to see if I can find my modulator and we're going to try to put some AM through it. That'd be fun. So here is the D-Lab Defiant 30 watt modulator. This is a plate modulator running a pair of 6L6s. I've got it hooked in to the Adventurer, so it actually goes in series with the plate voltage to the 807 output tube. Up here, we have a little DX150B that we'll be monitoring. I put it away so we don't get a lot of feedback. So here we go. Let's get in position. So if you ever want to run an Adventurer on AM, it can be done. But you have to have the external modulator. I believe that Johnson made one, but I made my own, which I have used on several different transmitters, including the old Liscos, and they actually do a great job. It's just another piece of equipment you have to have, right? Anyway, the microphone through the modulator will key the Adventurer. So here we go. There it is. That's the audio. A little bit of buzz you're hearing is probably the proximity of the radio to the microphone, picking up a little bit of AC, but whoa, see, I can really crank her up, make it happen. But as you can see, it's got pretty decent audio. So I tweaked the receiver a little bit, so we got a little bit clearer audio now. This is a non-powered 10DA type of element. Sounds pretty darn good. So what a great little transmitter, huh? I'm sure back in the day, the novices would kill for one of these things, because otherwise they just had to home brew something and hope they had a good signal. There's always complaints of chirp and key clicks. This one doesn't have it, probably due to those nice fresh filter caps. So the Johnson Adventurer is ready for a new adventure, maybe 50 years more.